What do you call a caviar taste test?
Oh, no. I don't know.
An examination.
I knew egg was in there somewhere.
Hungry Squared, bringing you the best food talk anywhere.
Welcome to the Hungry Squared podcast, where the brain and belly meet. I'm Sharon from the Wasatch Cooking Guide.
And I'm Winter from theredparty.com. This week, we're talking about, I don't know what the category is.
Wrap it up.
Yes, wrap it up. We're going to talk about parchment paper, wax paper, saran wrap, aluminum foil. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Let's talk about it. Hello, Sharon.
Hey, Winter.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Oh, not bad. It's been a week.
Oh, yeah. Busy.
It's been a busy week.
Yeah, same here.
But, it happens. It's a thing. And we have lives, but it's been a really good week. Did you eat anything fun this week?
I did. We altered our meal plan a couple of times this week because we were busy.
Yep.
And Ike and I ended up with a midweek date night, which doesn't normally happen. So that was exciting.
Yeah.
And we went to Slapfish.
Again.
Yep. This is our second time going to Slapfish. And we both got lobster grinders.
So I think
it's a lobster sandwich.
Uh-huh.
And it's chilled. So the roll is hot that they put it on, and it's really buttery and toasty.
Mm-hmm.
And then they put lobster, shrimp, and crab in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really tasty.
It's like mixed up in a sauce or something, right? No?
Yeah. So it was pretty big pieces of meat, and it was combined with a little bit of like a lemony mayo.
Oh, okay.
To hold it together, and some celery and some Old Bay, and it was really yummy.
So it was good.
Yeah.
I know
and there's a little bit of spice to it too.
Oh, okay.
Just a teeny bit.
I know last time you went,
I was on the fence.
You were on the fence.
Because they have these really good lobster taquitos.
Yes.
But they're like an appetizer. They're not a main course.
Exactly. And I was like, that doesn't sound like it would fill me.
For my main thing, I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, it was good, but it wasn't like out of this world good like I thought it should be.
Which you kind of expect going to a nice little seafood place. Shack.
Yeah. Yeah. So the lobster grinders were delicious.
Wonderful. That sounds good. We might go find some lobster rolls this weekend.
I think you should. Beware that these lobster grinders are pretty small. So
what are we talking, like a 6-inch or less than that?
It might have been a 6-inch, but the bread is really thick. And just like all around, it's kind of small. So it was enough food because it comes with some fries, and they have this really good fry sauce that they spike with lemon.
Oh, that's right. Which you thought was a little weird last time, I think you said.
Right. But because the lobster grinder has a bit of a spice kick to it, there's some cayenne and something else that I couldn't pinpoint in there. It was really refreshing.
Oh, good.
Cools it off. Really
Balanced it pretty good.
Yeah, but it was enough food. But it's not like you're not going to be stuffed by any means.
Okay. Well, maybe that's okay.
Yeah.
It was all right. Just right.
Mm-hmm. Yep. What did you eat this week?
So, because it was a little bit of a rough week this week.
Did you eat some comfort food?
Well, no, not really. So I think I was at work every single day this week, which is, that sounds really weird for a lot of people to hear that.
No, that's different for you though.
It is different for me because I don't work every single day. I have a little bit of a pared down schedule. And so I wasn't at work every single day. So this week though, I finally got around to doing something because it's been coming for a while. So one of my coworkers, she and I love this. You can get a prepared soda drink at some of the like soda jerk places around here.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Fizz or Swig and stuff like that. So people are probably familiar with
the quote unquote dirty soda.
Yes, exactly. And so the one that I really like is called a Diet Yowza from Fizz. And the Diet Yowza is a Diet Dr. Pepper, and you have to use pebbled ice, right?
Oh yeah, you totally have to use the pebbled ice. It's fun to eat when your drink is all gone, and it cools the drink down more, I think.
Yeah. And then, so you have pebbled ice, you have a Diet Dr. Pepper, and then you have, I'm not sure how many squirts it is, but there's a squirt or two of Tarani, like raspberry syrup.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, and I'll put a link in the show notes if you don't know what it's just basically a syrup, like a flavored syrup.
Yeah, a couple pumps. You'd see the Tarani is in a lot of the coffee shops.
Yeah, it's like Italian soda mix, basically. And then, so what they do at Fizz is they put in probably a couple of pumps or 1 or 2 pumps of coconut syrup, and then they put some cream on the top.
Like creamer cream?
No, like cream, I think. So it kind of does make it an
like
Italian
whipping cream?
I think it's whipping cream. So I have a homemade hack for that. So I do have Tarani raspberry syrup because we have a cheese party every year with Italian soda. So I pulled out that bottle and then I bought the Coffee Mate coconut creamer.
Oh, like okay. It's blue. It's in a blue bottle. Yep.
And you can just make it that way. So I brought both of those in and I was like, because somebody was nice enough to bring a 12-pack of Dr. Pepper to work and left it in there for everybody. And so we had mixed drinks, non-alcoholic, of course.
Did you have the pebbled ice at work?
Yeah, we did. And so everybody, only me and this one coworker had ever had this combination before, and we just love it. And then we introduced everybody else to it, and they were like, "What is this?" They were so excited, and it was it hit the spot for everybody because it was kind of a stressful, crazy week for us, but it was a hit. So if you want to be a hit at work, you can just go ahead and do that.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. 3 ingredients, 4 if you include the ice.
Yeah.
So it's totally worth it. And you'll be like so popular in the office.
And now for the main course.
Okay, let's get down to our first topic at hand, and that is wraps and paper.
I know it's a weird topic, Sharon. I know, but
it's like food storage solutions, but not really, because we're not talking about glass and plasticware and things like that.
We're specifically talking about things that are used to wrap or to protect bakeware or other dishes and that type of thing. So I'm going to save this to the very end because I really found it extremely interesting. Saran Wrap. Lee was the one that said, "Hey, have you heard about this?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" Like I really was baffled. Nice. So we'll get to that. But first of all, we're going to talk about aluminum foil.
Okay.
So I grew up calling it tin foil.
Yeah, we did too.
Okay, good. There's a lot of people that still call it tin foil, and it's a misnomer because it is not made out of tin. And the reason why we call it tin foil is because back in the day, foil was made of a really thin leaf of tin. And
really?
It really was.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It was commercially available from the late 19th century into the early 20th century. But the problem was that it's not as malleable, so you couldn't ever get it as thin as you wanted it to. And because of the fact that it did leave a quote unquote tinny flavor to your food.
Oh.
So it really,
ooh.
Yeah. So that was kind of the thing that was a precursor because they were still looking for options to wrap food in and that type of thing.
Sure, always.
Yeah. And by the way, I thought this was very interesting. The first audio recordings on phonograph cylinders are made out of tin foil, but they would just get trashed. Like you could only
quickly.
Use it. So that's when they moved on to the wax cylinder. So I just thought that was a little bit of interesting bit of trivia. So eventually though, in 1910, there was Dr. Lauber, Neher, and C. They opened up their first aluminum foil rolling plant in Emshofen, Switzerland. And they started to pump out this very thin, very because it's aluminum is way more malleable than tin is. And so
isn't it lighter?
Oh yeah. And they got together and they discovered a process on making these basically that it's made by, and I really had a lot of fun because I watched a lot of videos on how aluminum foil is made.
Cool.
If you get a chance to see a couple of those are fun. So they roll these big sheets of ingots. So ingots are cast and basically melted down. So these big chunks of aluminum are melted down. All of the imperfections and impurities are pulled out. And then they go ahead and start putting them into these big bars of aluminum, which eventually get smashed down, and then eventually rolled into the desired thickness. It is so fascinating. Yeah. So if you think about it, it's just a big chunk of aluminum and then impurities are taken off and then eventually you'll start getting pressed down and then rolled out until you get the exact thickness.
So do they use like big heavy duty rollers to do that?
Mm-hmm. When they're smashing it down, it looks like actual like presses, so that you could actually get the big thick these ingots smashed down to the appropriate, like I think it was seven millimeters thick. And that's when they could send them through the rollers. I think back in the day, they could tell if it was too thick or not thick enough. They could let up on the pressure or put more pressure on it to get it to the right thickness. And that was really interesting. Now, so in 1911, the so there's a company called
Toblerone.
Yep. They began wrapping their chocolate bars, especially the ones that are triangular shaped chocolate bars, in this lovely aluminum foil, which it is still now today wrapped in that aluminum foil. So,
which cut my finger on Christmas Day.
It did?
Yes. I got like a paper cut, but it wasn't a paper
With
cut. It was an aluminum
foil?
cut.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
So if Toblerone wants to send me a Toblerone bar for my trouble.
Yeah. So they started using this in like 1911, and they've started to aluminum foil it was a way to wrap foods. And they used it for many other things, but it started in the United States. They wrapped lifesavers and candy bars and gum in it. So that's kind of the fun thing is that it's been around for a long, long time, and we've been using it for food for a long time. Now, Sharon, I am sure you have noticed that there is a shiny side
and a dull side.
What have you heard about that?
Let's see.
What do you know about that, I guess?
I don't know a ton about it. I know that there's certain recipes, like if you're wrapping your food, that call for put it on this particular side. And I think it's usually this shiny side and the dull side is out. But maybe that's just like for camping or something. I don't know.
So this is the thing that I thought was very interesting about aluminum foil, is that there's always been a debate. People always think it should be one side or the other. Like the shiny side reflects heat off, and the matte side keeps it in, whatever, right?
Yeah, and I don't know if that's really a thing.
Yes.
I've noticed that when I've seen recipes, like I've used a recipe that calls for aluminum foil, and some way or another they'll say which side, they'll usually specify a side to put the food on.
Which is so interesting because there's no difference. According to Reynolds Wrap, aluminum foil.
Right. They make the foil.
They make the foil that we know most. I mean, obviously there are many other generic brands and such, but Reynolds was the one that kind of is on the map for aluminum foil, right? I mean,
yeah, they have the dark blue box, and that's that's the name brand that you buy.
Yeah, exactly. So there's no difference, and it's on their FAQ site. And either side will do just the same for cooking, freezing, storing, whatever you need to do. The difference is in the appearance is how it was manufactured. Because of the fact in the final rolling step, 2 layers of foils are passed through the rolling mill at the same time. So the side that comes in contact with the mill's like super heavy duty polished steel rollers, that's the side that becomes shiny. And the other side on the inside, the 2 facing inside, are the ones that come out that dull matte finish.
How funny.
Isn't that interesting? Like, because I thought there was a reason, like one or the other, but there's not. Now, I'm going to put a little asterisk here. The only exception to this, okay, is the Reynolds Wrap Release Nonstick Aluminum Foil. So they have ones that they call it the nonstick version. So that one, the nonstick coating is actually applied during the manufacturing to the dull side of the foil. So between the 2 layers, there's the nonstick stuff.
Oh, wow.
So if that is the case, if you're using the Reynolds Wrap Release Nonstick Aluminum Foil, and I can't speak on other companies that manufacture aluminum foil, but for them, they just said use the dull side toward the food so it doesn't stick.
Interesting.
Yeah. So in general, doesn't matter. If you have a specific type that has a nonstick, then definitely there's a side that it's affected by. So isn't that funny?
That's cool.
I know. It kind of reminds me of, how there's that story of a daughter was learning how to make a ham from her mom, and when she was doing it on her own, she cut off the ends of the ham because that's the way her mom did it.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, I don't know why you do it. My mom did it. And she found out from her grandma that it was the reason why is because she never had a big enough pan. So she cut off the ends so that it would fit in the pan. It's just one of those things where I think it just kind of gets perpetuated. Like, oh, you got to use the shiny or the dull side of the aluminum foil. Anyway, so that is aluminum foil in a nutshell. Pretty simple, kind of cool processing. And it's been around for a long time. It's really nice for wrapping things because it doesn't air and things don't permeate through it. So you can wrap things pretty nicely and you can recycle it. There is a little bit of a energy cost to recycling it, but it's not bad. It's like 5%, I think. So
nice.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about
parchment and wax paper?
Because I think there's a lot of confusion about that too. I was very confused as a kid between the two because I have used wax paper in situations that I should not have used wax paper.
Yep.
And it's been very sad and kind of messy.
Yeah, it gets gross.
Yeah, it totally does.
Okay, so parchment paper and wax paper. A lot of people will wonder what the difference is, especially if you are a person who knows the difference and you have somebody else using your kitchen, maybe your parchment paper and wax paper are kept together.
Yeah.
Like ours is.
Yeah.
Because all of the little boxes, the foil, the heavy duty foil that we use for smoking and grilling and stuff like that. Then there are regular foil. Then we've got our plastic wrap, all that kind of stuff. It's all in the same drawer because it will all fit.
It all fits there. Yeah.
Like with like. So this happened at our house not too long ago.
Oh no.
We get Ruby Snap frozen cookie dough, which I think I've talked about a little bit before.
Yes. And I've gotten some of those from you and they are delicious.
Yeah, they're pretty good. So part of the directions states that you have to put them on parchment.
Oh, okay.
On the directions on the bag.
Uh-huh.
And that's just so you can get kind of the same cooking results as you would if you went to the Ruby Snap bakery.
Yeah.
So as long as it's like a nonstick surface or whatever, but the parchment paper seems to work the best I've found. Versus like greasing the sheet or anything like that.
Right.
So somebody who is not me who will remain nameless was making them in our house, and because that person's super really nice and
we love them.
Yes, we love them. And they put wax paper down instead of the parchment paper because they didn't think it mattered. And, because it's paper. Paper is paper.
Paper is paper.
Except wax paper and parchment are different.
Very different.
So they both have a nonstick surface. Parchment paper is a cellulose paper.
Okay.
That has, typically today, it's been treated with silicone.
Okay.
Or in the past, and still, and depending, I think, on the parchment you get, I'm not sure, it's treated with sulfuric acid.
Oh.
To create, the pulp is run through like a sulfuric acid bath to create a nonstick surface.
Interesting.
So that process partially dissolves or gelatinizes the paper, and then forms a sulfurized cross-linked material that's high density. It's really stable and it's heat resistant and has low surface energy.
Yeah.
So that's the science behind the parchment paper.
Okay.
The wax paper, the main difference is that it's not heat resistant. Wax paper is typically treated with paraffin wax.
Yes.
And it's not the same paraffin wax that would be like in a kerosene lamp.
Right.
It's food safe. I would liken it probably to the paraffin wax dip, like if you go to the day spa.
The spa, yeah, exactly. So it actually is a low melting point.
It's a very low melting point. That's the problem with the wax paper.
That's the problem with the wax paper.
Low melting point, so it creates a greasy mess because the wax melts. But then if you put it in an oven, the paper can ignite.
Yikes.
So, and you see that occasionally, like with your parchment paper, not that it ignites necessarily, but especially if you reuse the parchment paper, it'll singe.
And let's just make a note, you can reuse parchment paper generally.
Yes, generally you can. Depending on the heat of your oven and things like that.
How much you've exposed it to.
How much surface area of the paper has been exposed. On that second or third use, it will start to singe.
Right.
So you gotta kind of watch out for that. So So this lovely person in my home used the wax paper, and I was like, what's wrong with the cookies? Nothing's wrong. Like, well, what's burning? Nothing's burning. So it was a little bit of a mess, but
burning.
Everything turned out okay. But just don't use wax paper in the oven. So when you research websites like Martha Stewart or Bon Appetit, even the kitchen, they'll say definitely use both in your kitchen.
Yes, there's a reason for each of them.
Yeah. Generally speaking, parchment paper is for heat and wax paper is for cold.
Yeah.
So wax paper is really good if you want to, if you're grinding meat and making your own meat patties, say, and then you're going to freeze them, or maybe just store them in the refrigerator for a few days, separate those with wax paper sheets.
Yeah. And they will stay separated because of the wax layer.
Yep. If you are rolling out a pie crust, you can roll that out actually on wax paper. That will act as like a floured surface, basically, because of the non-stickness with it.
Yeah.
And then if you also wanted to freeze that, you could freeze that in between layers of wax paper.
Now, Sharon, I do feel like wax paper is a little bit thinner in thickness. I mean, like the thickness of wax paper is a little bit, it feels a little thinner to me than, say, parchment paper.
I
Do you know about that?
Parchment is a cellulose type, like
so there's
plant
more
pulp.
fibers in that.
It's more fibery. Wax paper is actual, like it's sturdier paper. So it might feel different because there's less fiber, like it's less fibrous.
I think it is like, because there has been times when I've rolled out a pie dough. That's why a pie crust, but I used parchment paper because I was kind of rough on it. Because you try and you roll it out when it's cold,
right?
So, and parchment paper did the trick too for that one.
Yeah,
but I've never tried it with wax paper.
Yeah. So generally, wax paper is a cold use, and parchment's the hot use. You could cut parchment to line a cake pan.
Oh yeah,
things like that. Or you use it to do a French cooking method, which I'm going to butcher the name of. It's called empapeliote.
Ooh, I don't know.
But
we have a few French speakers out there if you want to correct us.
Yes, please correct me. So it's kind of a low fat, pretty nutritious way of cooking food, especially meats. Because you basically cook it in a paper package. So you can cut your parchment paper, and if you cut it, like cut a circle and then cut like a little triangle out of it. So like cut it like a heart.
Yeah.
You put your meat in there. So usually fish, you can do this with red meat or chicken, and then put it in the center, fold it over. So you've got a half heart, and then you can kind of roll up the edges into themselves.
Yeah.
And you cook especially popular for fish.
Yeah.
And some roasts, but you cook that meat in its own juices and things like that. And so
interesting.
And since it is a non-stick, it releases everything
really nicely.
Yeah. And it doesn't get stuck onto itself, but it just kind of keeps it marinating.
Oh.
Like basting in its own juices the whole time.
That's cool. Parchment paper.
Yeah. So that's parchment paper. Okay. Wax paper is good it's great for baking, for the beginning processes of baking. So rolling out doughs, measuring. It's great for measuring. You can reuse your wax paper. So if you're measuring, say, some flour, different powders, things like that, you can just do it right over the wax paper, level it off, and then use that wax paper to dump back into your container.
Nice.
It's used for a lot of preservation of foods too.
Yeah.
The American Cheese Association, there is such a thing, recommends wax paper as the best way to preserve cheese.
Once it's been opened from whatever.
The best way to preserve the flavor of cheese. In its heyday, wax paper was used for packaging candy, chocolate, even bread.
Yes, exactly.
So there's some really good examples in the 50s and 60s of wax paper bread packaging. You can kind of look some old advertisements up online.
Yeah.
And you can see that bread packaged in the wax paper.
When we talked about sliced bread, that's what he went with. He went with the waxed paper.
Yeah. And even today, the American Cheese Association or American Cheese Society, lists wax paper as the most preferable way to serve cheese as it's moisture proof.
Yes.
And it's flavor proof. So, and they even prefer it to plastic wraps.
Which is impressive. And we'll talk about that in a second. And I think I know why. But it makes sense because the wax, that paraffin wax layer, would easily seal off odors and from going out and coming in. Yeah, it totally makes sense for cheese.
Yeah. So when wax paper was the most popular, in the early 20th century, I guess, they would just recommend kind of folding things over, and people would preserve like sandwiches, like pre-made sandwiches that way, or you would just keep your leftovers in a bowl and then just kind of make a collar for that bowl. So just rip off a piece of wax paper that was slightly larger than the bowl and then just fold it down
kind of
around it. But something that I found really interesting about wax paper was that both wax and parchment have been used for a really long time. Parchment paper especially.
Yeah.
Paper in cooking has been used for a long time.
Yeah.
So parchment used to be, documents used to be written on them.
Oh,
like they would use parchment and vellum and papyrus and things like that. And so this has been around for hundreds, thousands of years.
Right.
And then we got to the point where we started putting non-stick properties to it.
Right.
And so that's where we come with our quote unquote bakery release paper that we know today.
Right.
That's one of the names that it's called, parchment paper.
Bakery release. Nice.
So wax paper has also been used for a very long time, and I did not know that. The wax paper that we use today was introduced by Gustave Le Gray, and he was using it for photography purposes back in 1851. However, the practice of oiling parchment paper...
What was he using it for in photography? Did it say?
Negatives.
Oh, okay.
With help with the negatives and things.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
As just a tool. And so the practice of oiling parchment paper or regular paper in order to make it semi-translucent and moisture proof goes back to the Middle Ages.
Middle Ages.
Back then, do you want to know how they did it?
Yeah. I'm like, what?
They used purified earwax.
Oh, that's so gross.
I don't know how you purify earwax.
That is so gross.
I have no idea how you get enough earwax to coat paper.
That is so gross.
But they would do that. They used it throughout the 19th century to retain or exclude moisture or to wrap odorous products, which, if it stinks and you're going to wrap it in earwax, it might just stink in a different way.
That's so gross.
I don't know. But they would coat it with the purified earwax.
That's so gross.
So it was used up to
so gross?
the 19th century. So, yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. So gross.
And there's lots of different arts and crafts uses for wax paper. Just, I'm just going to put that out there.
Yeah.
You can use wax paper in the microwave.
Yes.
Because it's different than the oven, just the way that it heats and things like that. So you're not going to melt or ignite the wax paper that way. But if you do use it in the oven, it will melt and ignite. And that kind of makes it a little bit more functional for microwave use because plastic can melt sometimes.
Yes.
And aluminum foil will also ignite.
Don't
put metal in your microwave.
Do not do that.
I just found a lot of really interesting things about wax and parchment. It's been around for a long time. Wax paper is not gross anymore. It used to be gross. Those are some really fun talking points.
It really was kind of like I think things have gotten better as people have developed their products a little bit better.
Yeah. I just couldn't get over the fact that they used to use earwax for wax paper.
And I don't know how they clean that out. I watched an episode of Mythbusters where they were talking about trying to make, if they could make a candle out of earwax. And so they extracted a lot of...
Can they?
They did not do a very good job. I don't think that worked out super well for them. So I just want to say that gross yet again. Ew, gross. This is a food podcast. Ew, gross.
Hey, this is food history.
It is food history. That's true. Ew, gross.
But feel free to use modern wax paper for your preservation of food.
Oh my gosh.
And for the beginning processes of baking. Just don't use it for cold. Don't use it for heat.
Okay, we'll move on to the thing that I was very excited to talk about.
Saran wrap?
Saran wrap. So once again, Lee is like, hey, have you heard about this story? And I was like, what are you talking about? Because he said, hey, do you know why Saran wrap doesn't work as well as it once did?
Why?
Have you noticed that?
Yeah, it's terrible. I hate that stuff.
Yeah. Like I remember Lee purchasing some. He's like, this stuff is crap.
We have a roll of plastic wrap. I think we use the Cling Wrap brand.
Okay.
Because I found that to be of the stuff that I've tried recently to be kind of the quote unquote best that works for me.
Right.
But we don't use it.
Yeah.
So we go through aluminum foil a lot.
Yep.
For camping, outdoor cooking and stuff like that, we use aluminum foil quite a bit. We go through parchment paper quite a bit.
Yeah.
And we do use the wax paper a little bit more often than the plastic wrap.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think wax paper, we use that the least amount.
Mm-hmm. Well, we still don't use it a ton.
Right.
We still don't use it a ton, but I think we technically use it more than the plastic wrap.
Okay. So we'll talk a little bit about plastic wrap in general. And well, I do want to start actually with Saran Wrap, because Saran Wrap is actually a trade name.
Mm-hmm.
And it's owned right now by SC Johnson and Son, right?
Okay.
That company. Now, but let's step back in time, because this was so interesting to me, that this particular, it originally once was polyvinylidene chloride, so PVDC.
Oh, it's got some bad chemicals in it that made it really clingy.
Yes. So it was actually first discovered in 1933 by the Dow Chemical Company. And there was a lab worker, his name was Ralph Wiley, and he noticed that as he was developing a dry cleaning product, everybody.
Well, that's no good.
Yeah.
Like, this used to be a dry cleaning chemical.
That he was having trouble washing the beakers out. He noticed that there was kind of this film that was left over. And from there, they kind of noticed that this was something that could be very helpful. I mean, this is an accidental, like, you know how we had our accidental food discoveries? Mm-hmm. This is kind of the same thing. It's just like, oh, well, we'll use this for something. So they actually developed it initially as a spray to put on U.S. fighter planes, and then later to put on upholstery for like the automobile industry, so that it would kind of hold up to things. Now they refined their process, because originally this product was greenish in color and it had a really stinky odor. Like, it was really stinky. So they got rid of the green color, so it was kind of more clear, because, yeah. And then they got rid of the odor, which helps considerably. So, and they used it in combat boots, and like they did a lot of stuff with.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been used in a ton of stuff. So in 1949, Dow introduced Saran Wrap. And so they made this clingy plastic wrap, very clingy. It would cling to itself. Mm-hmm. It was very impermeable to, like, oxygen couldn't permeate it really well. So it kept food fresher longer. Yep. And things wouldn't, like, other smells from the kitchen, the refrigerator wouldn't come into the food and, spoil it. And so that was a huge deal. Great Saran Wrap, right? Great Klingon wrap. And this is where it goes haywire. Just kidding. It doesn't go haywire.
Let's talk about it.
Okay.
It goes south.
It goes a little south. Oh, by the way, I do want to say something about this, because I wasn't totally sure. It was in 1943 when John Riley, which is Ralph Wiley's boss, and the Dow Chemical Company, they worked on they perfected it. And Saran, and I've seen a couple of different versions of this, so I'm not totally sure, but Saran came from a combination of the names Sarah and Anne.
Really?
And one of them, one thing said it was from John's cats and dogs' names.
Excellent.
But the other one said it was from his wife and his daughter's names. So I don't know.
Nope, it's the dog and the cat. He named it after the dog and the cat.
So that's where Saran came from. It's a little portmanteau of names anyway. So then we come around to, because I do remember that Saran Wrap is excellent. Like, I think Saran Wrap was excellent growing up and worked really well. In 2004, so SC Johnson acquired Dow. The Saran Wrap product. And then I really, really enjoyed this little article, but the president in 2004, the chairman and the CEO, sorry, it was Fisk Johnson, he explained in a very detailed 8-page article in the Harvard Business Review, they talked about how that they needed to make something that was not as toxic to the environment. So, because when PVDC is incinerated, because what happens is what we use it, we stick it in the garbage. Eventually the garbage might get incinerated, and anything with chloride could be quite not great for the environment when it's incinerated. So dumping stuff into the environment. So
toxic gas.
Yeah. So they actually made a pretty ballsy move, I think, and moved away to reformulate the wrap so it wasn't made out of this PVDC anymore. And they said, you got a year, see what you can do. And they came up and they knew that it was inferior to their previous product because they use what they came up with polyethylene. And they know that it's not as good. And they, in fact, lost a huge share of the cling wrap market.
Plastic wrap market.
Yeah. They used to have 18% of the market. They have like 11% as of this one article that I'm reading. And it was kind of unfortunate, but they knew that they had to make a very bold choice because that's what he's like, my great grandfather would have done the same thing. I
admire that though, because you have to move with the times. You have to move your company with the times.
Mm-hmm.
You have to move, technology with the times. And, sometimes you have to take a step back for actual progress, because 100 more years of toxic fumes and where are we going to be?
Exactly.
So,
I
admire that.
I really liked what he said. He said, the goodwill of the people is the only enduring thing in any business. The rest is shadow. And then he said, for us, anything that risks the trust customers have in us is unacceptable. So once we learned that this could be a really bad issue, is we decided to do the right thing. So once again, they've lost money on it. And like you said, you don't use it as often. And we don't either. I'll just tell you that right now. Mm-hmm. We don't use that. We have that brand, but we just don't use it as often because it doesn't really quite seal up as nicely.
Yeah, we'll use it if we go to someone's house, like if we're bringing a dish that we need a cover.
Yeah.
Like a serving dish that doesn't have its own cover.
Yeah.
Then we'll do that. But sometimes we'll put foil on it too.
Yeah, and that totally works too. So I just thought that was interesting. Don't get me wrong. That dropped off, the Saran Wrap dropped off and everything for them in regards to sales, the market share and that type of thing. But they have other products that they have definitely.
They're not going to go bankrupt. Let's be honest here. They are not going to go bankrupt.
They do Ziploc bags. Come on. They're not hurting. But I thought.
They have the zippered Ziploc bags, which we use a lot of.
Use plenty of. So there's, they're not wanting, but I just want to say that was I thought that was a pretty cool move by them to just do a good, they're looking forward to the future.
They own Ziploc. They can afford to do so.
Exactly. So I thought that was really interesting. So Saran Wrap specifically, that's exactly how that evolved. So next time you use your Saran Wrap or your plastic wrap, then you will know. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some that still, I think, use polyvinylidene chloride.
I'm going to go home and check the ingredients on my box.
Yeah. I don't know if it will say that. I'm actually curious now. But in fact, in Japan, Dow's trademark rights for Saran Wrap were assigned to a different company. So they actually went back to the PVDC. So
Saran Wrap in Japan.
But that's because it was acquired by somebody else, not SC Johnson in the United States. So it's just very interesting to see choices that companies make but how things will affect our food storage. And it really was very interesting. So
cool.
I don't know. Good fun, huh?
Let's have a food fight.
Food fight, food fight, food fight, food fight.
This is the segment where you can email us with your relationship questions relating to food. You can email us at hungrysquared@gmail.com.
Disclaimer, we are in no way professional relationship experts. We should totally listen to us anyway. If you need professional help, please seek it out.
Food fight, food fight, food fight, food fight. The food fight segment of the show. Here we go.
Winter, do you have this week's question?
I do. And I can relate to this one. And I can relate to this one.
Okay.
Dear Hungry Squared, I've noticed we go through rolls and rolls of paper towels each month in our home because a few members of the family, and she kind of has it in like quotes right there. She says, prefer to use paper towels only. And she puts, i.e. refuse to use washcloth, cloth napkins, etc. How can I help us be a little bit more economical in our use of paper towels? Yours wiped out. So Sharon, in my household, one of us prefers to use paper towels for everything, mostly everything, cleaning up counters and such. While another person, me, likes to use me.
Lucy, stop using all the paper towels.
Lucy does use a lot of paper towels, but I use a wash rag or sponge or whatever it happens to be. So I have a hard time with this because we do go through a lot of paper towels. Do you have it you?
So we are, I think I've mentioned this offhandedly before in the podcast, but we are doing an experiment in our house.
Okay.
And this experiment has been going strong for almost a year, and I don't have any plans to stop it because everybody's gotten used to it.
Did you fool them?
I gave Ike a heads up because we would buy like bulk paper towels. So I'm talking like 12 rolls type of a thing.
Yeah.
And we go through those in less than a month.
Oh, that's fast.
Right. It's too much. Like we would get the,
like the big old Downy
the jumbo rolls, like
Yeah.
the big bounty jumbo roll kind of, this is 3 rolls of paper towels in one, but we get like a million of them, right?
Yeah.
And we go through them in less than a month, and it's pricey. We were lucky in the fact that we already had a little bit of a stash to start from, and then I've built it up a little bit. And I kind of evaluate it every now and then. I'm like, is this getting too gross? But we use cloth almost exclusively in our house now.
For everything?
Yeah, except so I did make a concession for bacon. So if we fry something,
okay,
and usually in our house, we're really only frying bacon.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, this would go the same with like if we decided to do like fried chicken or something like that, which we don't do.
Right.
We'll use paper towels for that to drain the food. So we will use those for food, but we don't use it for anything else. So we've got a ton, and I mean, not a literal ton, but hey, we're getting there.
Oh dear.
We've got a ton of rags. We have a lot of some that are just designated for the kitchen. So my mother-in-law she is a crafter, and she's like, oh, I'm not really an artist. And I'm like, no, she makes these beautiful hand crocheted, and they have texture to them. She purposely does like a certain weave when she crochets wash rags.
Oh, like the edges. Oh, like an actual full on.
She does a pattern, so it looks almost like a castle, the top of a castle.
Oh,
and so there's like a really
ridges
good, there's really good ridges on them. And so we've got all of these like homemade, like farmhouse type of style, like wash rags in the kitchen. And so we use that for stabilizing our cutting boards. We use it for washing off the counters and stove and cleaning the sink. We have a scrub brush for dishes.
Okay.
If we ever hand wash dishes and we need something, then we'll grab a clean one of these farmhouse rags type things. And we use that. We have a rule though that they're kind of one-time use. So we're not like draping it over, the faucet to drip out and like smell and stuff like that. So we have enough because she's so kind and she's crocheted a ton, and I need to learn how to do it just in case because she's getting older and whatever. But we have enough that they can completely be one-time use. And once we use it, then we go to the laundry room and drape it over the side of this little specific laundry basket for our kitchen linens.
Okay.
And that dries out. And then once a week, I wash them all. So we use cloth napkins.
Okay.
Since we've got teenage boys and they kind of tend to be messy, those are one-time use as well.
Okay. But so you have enough to rotate through.
Yes, we sure do. And we have a basket of linens on the counter in the kitchen that we use as a substitute for paper towels. So we have kitchen towels that go in the drawer, and those are for like hands or to dry dishes. Mm-hmm. And then we have like these quote unquote paper towels that are reusable. And those are the IKEA Tekla cloths.
So nice.
They're like 75 cents or something like that.
They're so cheap, but they're so nice.
Yeah, they're great. And so they work for those things where you need something to wipe it up really quick, or whatever, and they clean up nicely. So we've had barbecue sauce on this stuff. We've had grease. We've had, wine. We've had tons of different things on these cloths, and they usually just come really clean. Yeah, so it's fine.
So you were suggesting, because there sounds like there's some people that in this food fight letters that the family members you prefer, and I don't know the reason why they prefer the paper towels, but I think a lot of it has to do with the cleanliness of the towel that is available, like the cloth towel that is available. Yeah. And I think that's usually Lee's concern. He's the other person, you guys.
Yeah, that's been Ike's concern too. I mean, Ike has most of his adult life, he's worked in a kitchen.
Right. And same thing with Lee.
Very sanitary.
Yes.
Super sanitary. I don't think he's ever worked in a place that's ever been shut down by the health department.
Right, right.
Like he's used to sanitizing everything at the end of the night.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was his big concern too. And so I talked with him and I was like, okay, well, what if I made this initial investment
of getting all of these things?
Mm-hmm. And if I made it easy to use and put it in kind of a prominent place instead of the paper towel roll being there, you've got this little basket of towels that are folded in such a way that like when you grab it, it kind of unfolds.
There's one and done.
You don't have to, it's not tucked into itself or anything like
that.
And so far it's worked out for us.
Okay.
And it works out like we've got cleaning rags for like the bathrooms and things like that. And we have enough to go around that you really, if you want a separate one for the sink, if you want a separate one for the stove, if you need a separate one for the bathtub and for a countertop, like you can have separate ones and it's okay.
Nice. Okay.
And we only end up doing an extra load of laundry for this stuff once a week.
It's not too bad.
So to me, I think that's worth it because I was throwing so much money away on the paper towels.
No, really?
And it was driving me nuts. And at the place that we live right now, they don't have recycle. And it really bugs me.
Yeah.
And so
same thing with us.
I feel like adding paper towels to that, it's too much for me.
Yeah. So maybe just investing in a few more rags and kind of having a process so everybody knows what to do. And
your cleaning process needs to be pretty thorough.
Yeah.
Whether it be bleach or whatnot, but just so you know, like, I mean, I use vinegar and borax and color safe bleach and things like that. And so that works and everything comes out sanitary and I put it on a really hot wash and stuff, but
nice.
That ended up working out for us. I don't know. That might not be for everybody though.
Right.
So,
and maybe there's a ration of paper towels in your house.
There is. There is one roll. We buy one roll at a time and we keep it under the kitchen sink and that's behind things.
Yeah. And that I was going to say, I think one of the reasons why we use paper towels so much is it's readily available. It's on our counter.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Lee has, he prefers to use the paper towels still. So I got to figure out other options. Maybe we'll have a discussion about it now that we've had this question.
I don't know.
It's a good one.
So if you make it easy for people and if you make an initial investment to buy many and don't reuse them, like after they've been used once until you wash it, it might work out.
I think it would, because the reason why Lee doesn't love the reason why he hates using washcloths is because, I'll use it and I'll set it aside on the sink. And we have a stainless steel sink.
Yeah.
And he hates the smell of stainless steel.
It's gross.
He hates it.
It is gross. I am with him.
Yeah, he hates it. And so, and I smelled it on my hands the other day when I was wiping something and I was like, oh yeah, that doesn't smell so good. So I can see
like a musty, gross.
Yeah. Metallic-y.
Yep.
So maybe that's what we'll do is we'll just have a bunch of rags available because he does not love that smell. So once it's done, you just stick it into like you said, into laundry and get it washed. Yeah. It's a good idea. Okay. Good luck. Yeah.
You don't have to do it my exact way, but I just went on about it just so you could know what we do.
Incorporate a few more things in there because I don't know what to do on those. We use a rubber, the latex gloves because we do use, Lee uses latex gloves in our kitchen.
Yeah, we do too for meats and stuff like that.
But he uses he will use some of those underneath his cutting board to keep them in place. And then when he's done with them, he'll stick them back in so that he can actually use them for food prep. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
So I feel like we're getting a couple of uses out of that instead of just a one-time whatever. But let me think about that some more. Good luck. Hopefully that works.
Yeah, good luck. Thanks for joining us today for our show. You can find us at hungrysquared.com, on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play Music, and Spotify.
Woohoo! Hey, you guys, we are coming upon episode 100. Yikes!
This is exciting.
It's super exciting. Okay, so
We're going to have some giveaways.
we will, so keep an eye out for that. And if you haven't subscribed to our podcast, why haven't you? Subscribe,
Please.
we'd love it. And follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Hungry Squared. We are doing kind of some fun stuff there. Lots of giveaways. We have a lot of really excellent interviews in the next little bit.
Yeah, we're excited for the summer.
Yeah, it's going to be so fun. So join us next week for our next episode of Food Nerdery.
Okay, love you. Bye.
Bye.
Hungry Squared, yeah, Hungry Squared.